Yeah. uh, Let me see. Um, yeah, this is I- yeah, I can hear you properly, but they're not. So I just wanna check that everything is going proper.
Okay.
Okay, this should work now.
So, yeah.
Okay. So
Should we start over again?
let me see. Can you guys hear us fine now? Audio works. Okay, perfect. Sorry guys, this is, as always, this is how do you call it? We are doing these for the first time. So learning as we go. We might have some blops every now and then, but thanks for letting us know, and we'll make sure to address them as soon as possible. So yeah, Marius, square one, man. Let's go.
Oh, great. No problem.
No, just pick up from where you were talking. Just explain
Yeah,
the origin of this image, and we'll keep
yeah.
going from there.
So, yeah, somehow this was the image I did after somehow quitting every days for me.
How long
And
did you do them for?
I did every days for 1 to 1.5 years.
Okay.
So I started doing 3D, yeah, a little bit less than 2 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, I started in, don't know, what is it, 2017. So I started around May 2015.
And
Yeah.
you went until.
I went until, I guess, what was it, like June, July, August, somewhere in there.
Mhm.
So I skipped 1 or 2 days during the last weeks of every days.
Okay.
Because I realized I couldn't keep up with it with the amount of detail I wanted to put in them. So I thought to myself, okay, before I say, okay, I can't do this idea or this idea because it's too much for one day, and just skip it, I thought to myself, okay, maybe I have to stop doing every days and creating pictures where I still work on every day, but that are a bit bigger and a bit more what I want to show in my work.
Yeah, because it's easy. It's easy to put limitations. I'm having the same issue where it's not so much time, but more. I guess the power of my machine. I'm learning
Mm.
texturing in 3D and all that, and I'm getting to the
Yeah.
point where, although I mean, I'm working off of a laptop, so it's not the best setting, but it's taking me like 5 minutes to render things that are having like too many maps, or to get it to that realistic feel.
Mm.
It's taking way too long, so I need to figure out a way to still keep my practice and keep my like training every day without
Yeah.
giving that as an excuse using that as an excuse to sort of slack off and watch
Yeah.
too much TV shows.
Yeah, yeah. I remember when I did an internship and wanted to do 3D every days as well. Then I had to render overnight, like 7 or 8 hours, because my machine was so slow and I was rendering in Maxwell, maybe the slowest renderer I know.
Okay.
And so I had to render all night and wake up to an image of like 1,000 pixel. And I was like, okay, that's enough for Instagram.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah, and so yeah, and then when I started freelancing, I realized, okay, I don't want to do really every days anymore, but I want to do some bigger pictures. So less pictures, more time spending on them. So yeah, this is the first of those, I guess.
And like, you started the everydays just from seeing people do them, or
Yeah,
okay.
right.
Yeah, yeah,
I saw people and I was like, oh, cinema 4D can be cool somehow.
Okay.
Because what we were teached in in university was doing product renders. and some basic animations of packaging.
Gotcha.
And so I wasn't really interested in 3D and basically skipped all my courses in 3D and was really bad at it and didn't have a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. And when I saw Beeple for the first time, I was like, oh my gosh, 3D can be pretty cool, and especially Cinema 4D. And he's using the same package I know from my university, but his stuff looks so much cooler than those product renders that we get taught in university.
Cool. At this point, I guess, just show us, how do you go about making your magic? I'll keep an eye on the chat and let you know if any questions that might pop up. Are you good to go? Qu'est-ce qui se passe? Sorry guys, just 1 second. I'm not hearing Mariusz anymore. Mariusz?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I couldn't hear it for a second. It was weird.
Okay.
Okay, sorry about that, man. Take it away.
No problem. So, where was I? So one day I saw those blinds in the window and casting the slide on a wall. And I was like, okay, somehow I want to recreate exactly this on a wall. And I saw, and then the other day I saw our basement door standing open, and I saw the light coming from down there, and I was like, yeah, that's pretty interesting. Maybe I can combine those two, and I'm having a lot of fun creating somehow shapes and patterns with light and creating interest with light. So I modeled this scene, and this is somehow my process. You can see in here, this is the photo of this image, and I'm doing a lot of preview renders all the time, because when I work on an image, I usually... Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Because when I do an image, I usually start out with lighting, okay, and tweak it till it's there where I want it to be for the final image. I'm not one of those guys modeling something and then trying to light it later.
Okay, that's
I'm not able to somehow. I'm so bad at it. So if you are able to do it, great. But I'm so bad at it. And when I was doing photography, I was pretty bad at taking pictures in the studio as well, mm-hmm, because I'm I'm somehow not able to have something set and then having to light it afterwards.
Is that because, do you think that's just because of your background in photography, or is it just because you're weird? I don't know, I'm asking.
I guess I'm weird. Could be. But I always got a thing for natural light somehow.
Yeah.
And when I was doing photography, I always wanted to work without flashes, and I really like to shape the light that is there, like sunlight and maybe holding up something to block the light and to cast shadows and all this stuff.
Gotcha.
So this is the same way I approach my 3D stuff. So I have the mood and the lighting in mind, and then I block out the scene with just basic boxes, as you can see here, and try to find an angle and somehow an interesting composition for me to use in my image, and then from there I start adding details and all this stuff. So and add more models. And what I do really often is like this. It looks totally terrible, but it helps me a lot because I do those renders, I put them into Photoshop, and then I start sketching over them. Because for me it helps a lot to visualize where I want to go with the image, where can I put some stuff to shape my image and to work on the composition. So looks totally terrible, but helps me a lot somehow, like a mind map.
Yeah, and it's less time wasted on modeling and deleting again.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's
this for sure. And for me it's somehow like a sketchbook, because when I have sketched all this stuff and I know, okay, I have to model this and that, and when I then start modeling all the basic stuff, I know exactly what to do, because I'm not like, let me model this and put it in there, and then like, okay, it doesn't fit.
Yeah,
so
that happens to me quite often.
Yeah. So that's because I start.
These are, like I'm learning these things as I go, because I'm learning it on my own. So I end up making so many different mistakes, going like six steps into let's say modeling a part or doing something, and realizing way later that I made a mistake way back. And I have to like delete a huge chunk of my scene or my model, and then restart doing that. And I end up, as time goes by, I'm learning those mistakes and streamlining my process. But I definitely know that it is an issue that I'm running into. And it's all a matter of planning, like you're saying. It helps you. It's really cost effective. You're not spending much time, but at the same time you get to see exactly what you're after.
Yeah, right. And somehow it's for me just to get an idea of what I'm looking at in the final image, and to have an idea what the outcome may be. Because when I started doing 3D, it was always like, I have this image in my mind, and then I started modeling right away, and I just set up a scene and started doing this and that. And in the end, I was like, maybe that's not what I was going for. So, but this was something I stopped doing because of stopping the everydays. And everydays is great, but for me, it wasn't great after like a certain amount of time, like a year, because I started to rush things and didn't take enough time to really think about what I'm doing, and just started like, I have to model this, and because I only got 2 hours, and then I rushed things and wasn't happy in the end. So I'm taking a lot more time now.
How long did it take you to build this scene?
I guess this scene, maybe I can look on the dates. it took, I guess it took me about 1 week. Or
Like the complete scene from beginning to end?
Yeah, 1 week or 1.5. Yeah, maybe around there.
That's pretty good, man.
And I did a lot of versions. So I could have been a lot faster, but yeah, it was like, yeah, maybe I try this and that and this and that, because I really have to set up my composition and my lighting and my mood. I have to set those things right before I start modeling anything else. And even before I start really modeling, I even grade the scene in Photoshop. I even put it into Photoshop and start grading, like, okay, what could be the final outcome?
Okay.
Because I always want to know what the final outcome will be. And this way I know, okay, this is my image and it will be just a lot more detailed in the end, but this is my image.
Okay.
So it's somehow easier for me.
Yeah, less. So you try to limit anything that's unexpected. You try to limit it down to.
Yeah.
That's yeah. I guess in 3D you have to, especially if you're trying to recreate something that's realistic or that's supposed to represent something that people are familiar with.
Yeah.
Because yes, you're not doing a concept art piece. You're recreating almost like architecture previs
Yeah, right.
pieces. That's awesome, man. Some people are asking about your texturing process and how you go about it. I don't know if we can go into the Cinema 4D file and
Yeah, have it open.
show us some of your magic.
It's not really magic, to be honest. It's just
magic.
like
Shh, don't say that.
when I see other people doing those crazy stuff in Substance Designer, for example,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so bad at shading. Because Substance Designer, maybe the best I can do was this floor, and even this floor is a basic Substance Painter map somehow that I modified, because I'm just not that good at it. Usually what I do is pretty basic stuff, to be honest. Let's look at this wall, for example. I don't know what people want to see, but I can go and open some of this stuff.
Exactly. I think that's the sort of things they might be interested in. How do you go about building your shaders? How do you go about placing your cameras? I guess just in general, how do you build a scene? How do you go about starting and building this scene? What are some of the technical issues you're considering and things like that?
Yeah, so what I usually do is applying very basic materials. Like, okay, this will be wood and this will be a wall, so it's white, and this will be black. So this is somehow here this this frame. So I threw just a basic color on it and a basic color on those boxes. So I know, okay, because all those things somehow change the lighting in the scene. Don't know if I can.
The bouncing of
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
because it changes the lighting. So I'm constantly re-rendering and looking how the light behaves, and and changing my exposure according to that. Because as you said, I really don't want any surprises in the end.
Yeah.
So I'm just applying basic materials before I go on. Like here, you can see it's just basic wall material with like repeating textures, but I know, okay, this wall will be a bit dirty, and I know, okay, those are some dirty boxes. And so I know, okay, this will be there and this will be there, and from there I go on detailing the stuff.
And do you go and find references? Do you, like, when you're building a scene like that, do you generally have, is it because you've seen something that you wanted to recreate, or is it just images that are floating in your mind that you're going about to build?
It's basically both of those.
Okay.
It's like, okay, I like this way of lighting in a scene, and I'm doing a lot of photography these days with my iPhone, and just run around, and my girlfriend is like, okay, we have to stop again because the light there is so beautiful and you have to take a picture. So yeah, and basically when we go in the city, I'm basically stopping every 2 or 3 meters because the light is so beautiful and all the patterns, and so I have to take pictures of those. And then I have some images in my mind, like, yeah, this would be cool if this or this would happen, and somehow I combine those two. Because I thought, because I saw this way of lighting in a scene or in a room, and want to recreate this sort of lighting, but apply to a different kind of scene.
Gotcha. So generally, how do you start? Do you start by, like, you start by blocking, definitely, and lighting is your first element.
Definitely.
And then do you go about just building a series of shaders, or how do you tackle the rest? How do you get from once you have the blocking down and an idea of the colors and everything that are going to be in the room, do you just go about creating assets like the cardboard and the materials? How do you go about?
Yeah, right. So after I blocked everything out, I start opening like a new scene, and I take this box that was here for the radiator, as it's called in English. So I take this box that is in place of the radiator, and I take it to a new scene and start modeling this radiator, and then I put it in the scene and exchange those two. And this is the way I build my scene. So I never really build inside my main scene.
That's
so always build in next to scene because of shading and all that stuff.
That's super interesting. Because I do the opposite, right? And sometimes I end up with like scenes that are so heavy, everything starts lagging. But it makes sense to, just block everything, and then take whatever element, like you were saying, the box that was instead of the radiator, you go in a new scene, build the radiator, and then just replace the assets.
So here you can see like a lot of those models going into this scene, for example.
That's pretty awesome. Millard is asking, do you take measurements of the objects that you build? Like, when you're doing a scene like this, are you thinking in terms of, like, are you calculating the scale of things to make it realistic?
Yeah, all the time. Because when I started doing 3D, I didn't do it. And when I want to approach more realistic scenes, I was always like, why? Why doesn't it look realistic?
Gotcha.
And then when I started working in post-production and in advertisement, it had to look real. And I remember this one day when I had to model a light bulb. And my coworker came to me and was like, "Somehow it doesn't look realistic." I was like, "Yeah, I know. Do you know what it is?" And he was looking at it. He was like, "How thick is the light bulb?" I was like, "What? Yeah, have you looked it up? How thick a light bulb is?" I was like, "No, it's just a light bulb." And he was like, "No, it can't work. It will never look realistic if the light bulb doesn't have the right amount of thickness, and if it's not to scale, it will never look realistic if you don't do that." Because, and he explained it to me in a very good way. He said, "Okay, imagine this light bulb in a room, and it's 40 watts, and it's a small room, and for sure this light bulb will illuminate the whole room. But if you put the same light bulb in a big church, for example, how much of this church is this small light bulb going to illuminate?" And he was like, "So you see, scale matters so much for lighting, for example.
Yeah.
And the way light works. So this was the way he explained it to me, and it made somehow like this click. And I realized, okay, my stuff could never look realistic if I don't build it to scale. So I don't take exact measurements. Like, I'm not like, okay, this has to be this 1.45 centimeters, for example. But usually you can see me sitting in a room and like measuring the outlets on the wall.
Okay, good.
Because I'm like, yeah, okay, how big might this be? Because somehow it's maybe a bit weird measuring all this stuff, but in the end, it's so much easier for you because you're not like, this could be this size or that size. And then you put it in a room and you're like, now the outlet is like way too big. It's bigger than the room. And then you have to scale it down and all this stuff. So when I start building from to scale right away, it's a lot easier for me to build up my scene.
Yeah, it makes total sense, man. I totally agree with the lighting. It just makes sense to if you're going to deal with lighting, and it's the same right with reflections and
right.
Whenever you're doing PBR, like realistic looks, like you need to, the closer you mimic what it is that you see in terms of the Fresnel, the reflection and all of that, the better results you get.
Right.
You're getting a question about the table. Did you use the lathe tool to build the legs, or do you actually model that box model?
A lathe tool? What is a lathe tool?
It's basically when you do just a piece of the leg and it just rotates it. You know, it's
okay. Yeah,
exactly.
lathe.
That's what it.
Sure. Because in German it was like latte,
Okay.
and I was like, okay, what is it?
You use the latte tool.
I used it in the beginning, and because just basic linear splines, and then I used the latte tool, and then I collapse it.
Okay.
And from there, I throw it into subdivision servers and
cool.
get this shape.
Let me see here. Mind of Impact says you sound like Rafael Rao, Silver Wing. So yes, today we are not with Mariusz Becker, but with Silver Wing. So this was all a big joke.
Yeah. I wish I would be as good as him.
How, one issue I have when modeling is the amount of polygons and how do I decide how much subdivision I should put in a model or not? Because sometimes I'm looking at your radiator, my tendency would be to over subdivide the object, and I'm thinking, do I need, like, once I put the how'd you call it? I can't remember the
subdivision servers.
Exactly. Once I put that, how is that going to affect it? Do I need to add more subdivision now so that it keeps its shape, or this or that? And this is where I run into issues, and I realize, 20 minutes or half an hour later that I did too many subdivisions. So then when I'm doing bevels and things, it just messes everything up. So I need to delete and start again. How do you go about how do you decide how much do you put?
That's a really good question, and I'm still not an expert on it anyhow. And a lot of times I have to start over again. But with this specific model, I just was like, okay, I need like 1, 2, 3, 5 of those. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, I need lines for those, definitely.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I know around 8 subdivisions, around 8 corners from a cylinder would be enough to get it subdivided to a circle somehow.
Mm-hmm.
So those are those two basic things I thought about. Like, okay, how do I keep the poly count low as possible?
Yeah.
But I guess this is my second model of it,
Okay.
or third even, because I did so many mistakes in the beginning. And even this model is not perfectly clean for sure. And I'm sure somehow that is an expert at modeling would do this a lot cleaner. But I always try to keep my poly count low. Yeah, for sure, because of Octane. And what I usually do is just making, again, a basic shape, subdividing this and adding the details at those places where I want them. Like here, I placed those details like, okay, is this enough? Can I work with this? Do I have to put in too many cuts for this? And sometimes I start like 2 or 3 times because I realize, okay, when I subdivide this, it won't look good, or I won't need, or I will need more subdivisions or something like this. So, yeah, some of this way. But another thing I learned and use pretty often, and when talking about keeping poly count low, is to work in symmetry. This is something I learned because this is the basic model of the radiator I did.
Oh wow! Okay.
That's all.
And does that make it lighter? Like when you when you're using instances to replicate it on all different axes, and then I guess you're using the clone tool to okay, it makes the polygon count lighter.
I'm not really sure about the VRAM usage in this case, but for me it's about the modeling workflow, because when I see, okay, I have to change this or that, then I can quickly adjust it and don't have to select the whole ring, for example. All this stuff. So it's a lot easier for me to make quick changes, and then I put it in another symmetry and I see, okay, this is right. And from there, I put the stuff underneath it and smooth it, another symmetry, and then clone it. So it's a lot easier for me to make the scene.
That's a really smart,
make those models.
It's a really smart workflow. That's something I saw because I use Modo mainly for modeling, and I follow a lot of Tor Freak's work. And he does that, like he'll model something, let's say if he was doing the panel, he would do, let's say, the first upper half, and then he would cut it in half, delete half of it, and then just use your same workflow, like just do an instance and duplicate it and clone it, and it makes sense. It's interesting. See, this is why I guess just looking at someone else do something that you're looking at someone else modeling in my case, it really helps me because I get to see so many mistakes that I'm making and how much time I'm wasting by having to fix things that, if I only had a quarter of this radiator, it would take like just so much more, 4 times less time to actually fix the issue, rather than having to do it on that and on all the different clones. And it's dude, you're schooling me, man. Kwaka is asking, what was the hardest thing you had to build in the scene?
In this scene, it probably was the radiator, but the really hardest thing for me was this what is it called? This outlet, or what is it called?
I'm not Anglophone, so I can't help you on this one. I think it's a I don't know, a plug. Guys, help us out. How do you call that thing? Let's call it the plug.
The plug thing.
The extension cord. Extension cord.
Yeah. Okay. This was the hardest thing for me for sure, because I wanted to do it somehow properly, and it's still not perfect at all. And I'm sure some people really good at modeling would scream at me for doing this. But basically, it's somehow the same workflow. It's a lot of cloning and a lot of instancing and a lot of symmetry. So you can see here, it's all put in there. And
it's awesome, man.
if I disable all symmetry stuff, you can see that here in this part, most of this stuff is just due to symmetry.
Okay.
Because I don't want to model everything again and again and again and place it manually somewhere.
Yeah.
And also working in symmetry allows me to keep the measurements somehow right, because I know, okay, when I put this anchor point of the symmetry modifier in the middle, then those two things are apart from another exactly the same amount.
Yeah.
And this one, as you might be able to see, is done in first I modeled this part and then I cloned it and put it together and collapsed it, and then started working from there and extruding here and here and then adding the details. So I built this part and the rest is cloned and then collapsed.
That's it's all about being smart about your workflow and because like you say, like a lot of it is repeating items, so just by cloning them, like you're gaining so much time, like you're not wasting as much time as people are asking why the sockets are round. bootleg
sockets.
Parts. Because it's because you have you're using European parts, and they're different here, so
okay, they're around here. I've got one of those at home.
Aspen is asking about some of the corners you have on the wall. I guess, how did you go about making almost like the worn feel you had on the render?
Oh yeah, wait. Let me look for it. So he's talking about those, I guess?
Yeah.
Yeah. Those were somehow a headache to me because I didn't know how to approach them, and I'm sure someone will have a better solution than me. But basically, I used just this part. What is it called?
Set selection.
I made a selection and just used this selection and wait. So now I have to look up those words because I'm using cinema in German, as everyone can see. So and I detached those the selection of this corner, and I brought it into a new scene. And then I subdivided it quite a lot.
Okay.
And then I used a displacer. I used a displacer. It's just a cylinder. I displaced the cylinder and put it right in there and just spooled it.
Okay. So you just did like a really long cylinder displaced with a displacement map on it and boolean on the edge, on the corner of the Okay.
Right.
This is something I know is possible, but would it be harder for you to, let's say, do a selection of that corner and add a map to just that area of the how'd you call it, of the wall?
I tried it and it didn't really look how I wanted.
Okay.
And I even brought it into into ZBrush, and it ended up pretty bad. So this is my displacer workflow, and this is the ZBrush thing I came up with, and
that's something I'm actually looking into, because I know from the workflow I understand, like you can use like the ambient occlusion to create a mask around whether it's convex or concave, around the corners, and then have how'd you call it, use that mask to then apply a certain, like a bump map or a displacement map. But same with you, I'm still having a hard time getting exactly the same result I'm looking for. And this, yeah, it's a hack, but it works.
Yeah, it worked.
It
So
adds more
I guess,
polygon, but it totally works.
yeah. So you can see it's like just this corner, and then I reattached it.
That's awesome.
So I still keep the polygon pretty low for the wall. So yeah, if someone has a way better solution than me, yeah, just call me, please. so I don't have to do it again.
How'd you call it? Okay, Oakley's asking if there is a way to do that with Aspen. I think it looks super smooth because Mariusz, you just like made it super subdivided. You subdivided it
Yeah.
a lot, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
it's
can see
completely
here.
blue. It's like completely.
It's completely blue, yeah. And then I even manually selected, and not really manually, because I used the phone selection, and then I selected those parts I wanted to color and applied a different material on those. So as you can see, yeah, here.
And did you go about doing the same process with the door, or because I
No,
agree,
the door's just a shader.
it's just a
as you
shader?
as you can see here, the door's pretty clean.
Okay.
And it's just a shader, and wait, maybe I can open it when Octane will. Yeah, so it's pretty basic shader, to be honest. And where all this stuff happens, that the door looks the way it looks, is in the mix material of Octane, where you can put in a shader, for example, that will blend between two materials. And Octane has this dirt node that is somehow like a curvature map.
Exact. Okay.
And I applied this and mixed it with an image texture of some wood. And after I put this wood into a gradient to make it more contrasty, I then put it in a color correction and then mixed those two. So this is basically my mask for blending between clean wood
Okay.
and some darker wood. And with like, yeah.
And your gradient nodes are like so that's almost like levels.
Gradient is the same stuff like the gradient in cinema. So what is it called? Yeah, it's a gradient in cinema, isn't it? It's
So basically, the closer the black and the white are, the more
Yeah.
contrast you'll have between both.
Yeah, right.
And that's how you I guess determine the how'd you call it? How contrasty is the edge between the worn part and the paint?
Yeah, right.
Okay.
So the gradient is a pretty cool node because when you put stuff in there, you can even how do I do it? There. You can not only do this, but you can
Gotcha.
also add a few more points. So I can make this part here brighter again and another part darker again. So I can really tweak my mask without having to go into Photoshop or something like that, or using color correction. And yeah, so this is basically the stuff I did for the door. So I get with the dirt node those corners, and
It's really well done, man.
thanks.
It's really well done because I'm looking at the image and I can, like, even the wooden beams that you have in the hallway, you can sense that the materials are different textures. You can see that the wood is not as it just feels like super rough
Yeah.
and matte and like they look really beautiful, man.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
They look really beautiful, man. I'll just keep saying that till the end of the stream. Make you uncomfortable.
Okay.
Where do you get your textures in general?
So a lot of those textures are just some images I take myself, for example, especially wood, is something I love to take myself.
Okay.
Because I can somehow control it, and I see some wood and I'm like, yeah, okay, this wood is perfect. I get this.
Yeah.
And then there is a company called Arrowway.
Okay.
I don't know if you know them, where they can...
Not at all.
I can...
Yeah, if you don't mind tapping it in the chat.
Yeah, sure. In the Slack chat? Or where do I put it?
Oh, just do you have access to the Twitch? If not, don't worry. I'll write it down for people.
Wait, wait. Send it to you on Twitch, and then can put it in.
Perfect.
So, Arrowway is pretty great. They got a lot of bundles with different textures, and so I'm using a few of their collections, and they're pretty cheap actually for this amount of textures and this quality of textures.
Gotcha.
Because every single one of those textures comes with a bump map and with a gloss map, all this stuff. So it's really high quality, and those are pretty big maps as well.
How big? How big are these?
So you can see here, this one's like 5K.
Yeah. Okay,
so
wow.
It's pretty great.
Okay, there you go, people. Arrowway. Aspen was asking.
Yeah.
I'll share it in this chat.
So it's Arrowway, and then I'm using this stuff called Share Algorithmic, this share website for substance textures.
Okay.
This one is really great because there are a lot of people uploading pretty good base materials, and then I go from there and tweak those because I'm not that great at creating substances on my own. Not yet. Perfect. I hope I'll get better with time. And and then there's CG Source. They got some pretty great maps as well. Mine. Yeah, I see. And sometimes even from textures.com, because those are great as well. And from there, I put those into Photoshop and sometimes make a normal map out of them with Quixel.
Okay. Did you I don't know if you noticed with the latest version of not the latest, but the newer CC collection of Photoshop. With under the 3D how'd you call it? Under the 3D tab, there's actually an option to generate normal maps and
curvature. Oh, there is.
Yeah,
okay.
And it does it. You just open your image, you use that option, and it just generates a layer with your normal map and everything.
Oh, okay, great. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, I discovered that I don't know, about a month ago, and it's pretty awesome. Like any image cool. you pop in will open as a 3D, ready map.
That's great. Sure. Yeah. Have to try those sometime.
Yeah, I haven't tried them in exactly. Filter 3D, and then you can choose normal map, bump map.
Okay.
Thanks, Millard. That's exactly the option I'm talking about.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. I'll check this out for sure.
Cool, man. How one thing I wanted to talk, like you can we go to your ArtStation page?
Yeah, sure. ArtStation.
Let's go look at the madness.
So this is my ArtStation page.
There's what I really love, like at one point I remember it was back in the days, like you did a series. It was like beautiful ArcViz. It reminded me a little bit of the 3rd and the 7th. And I really love those simple, clean spaces. But the ones that really intrigue me all the time is, you have this one with the almost like this guy in a bed with like black fabric floating in the middle of a room. All of these
Yeah,
weird
this one.
ones. Yeah. It'd be interesting for you to hear you talk about like what are some of the inspiration, like influences you have, because some of this is almost at the border of ArcViz and concept art and all these different things. There's definitely some weirder scenes that I appreciate. What can you talk a little bit about your interest
Yeah,
around
sure.
those?
So coming from photography, for sure, I'm looking at photography like almost every day, because I follow a lot of photographers and I got a lot of books on photography because I really enjoy this sitting down and looking to some photographs. And a guy like everyone knows is Gregory Crutzen.
Yeah, man.
And
Yes.
I really love his way of lighting scenes and his approach to storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
And not that I'm even in the same realm as him, but this is something that I really enjoy when looking at his stuff. And so yeah, this is one thing. And then I somehow got into installation art,
Okay.
like in museums when you have those big installations.
Do you go often out to like to
Yeah, so
galleries and things like that?
yeah, because of my studies of graphic design,
Yeah.
we had to go to the museum like 2 or 3 times in a semester,
Okay.
or even more.
Mhm.
So in the beginning, I wasn't really that interested, but from time to time, there were some great exhibitions, and standing in front of installations is pretty cool, and is somehow yeah, how do I put it? Yeah, it's
Yeah, there's
majestic. Yeah, majestic somehow. I don't know. I guess you know what I mean. And pictures don't really do it justice. And yeah, so I have a love for installation art somehow, and then for lighting and all the stuff. So somehow I combine those. And ArcViz is something I really enjoy, because I somehow like it very much.
it's interesting how, you know, you like we've been talking about 3D, Cinema 4D, rendering and Octane, but I feel like even more than that, we've been talking about photography, because it
Yeah.
seems that every decision you make is informed by that. How much does it influence your work? Like how, you know, what advice would you give to someone who's a 3D generalist, a 3D artist, but who doesn't do photo? What do you think could going into photography could impact their work?
So I always like to say somehow that 3D is somehow allowing me to take pictures I couldn't take before when I did just photography,
Yeah.
because I wanted to get into compositing, and this is because I started working in post-production. And but I always hit that wall of like, okay, I can't find the right image sources. I can't really composite that or this, and I don't know how to do it. And 3D really allowed me to do like everything I want. So, but photography in my experience helps a lot, because what photography taught me is to sometimes just take a picture from different angles somehow, but how do I put it? But to appreciate somehow the boundaries set by real world.
Okay.
Like for example, if I want to, if I'm sitting in a subway and I'm taking a picture, for sure, this stuff will be in front of my camera.
Yeah. Yeah.
this is something I really enjoy these days, to put something in front of the camera, to create some depth. And this is something I really enjoyed even when doing photography. And I guess going into photography, or not just really going into photography, just taking pictures and taking a lot of references and taking pictures of how lighting works, or how you can photograph a certain thing, like a PC, for example, or an elevator, whatever it is. It really helps you to get some more interesting angles in 3D, because a lot of times, and I'm doing this myself sometimes as well, I feel like a lot of this stuff feels somehow staged.
Okay.
Because it's often, okay, this is my model and I want to show this model in an environment, but somehow it doesn't feel like a part of this environment, because it's just standing there and it's perfectly in camera, because for sure I want to show off all the stuff that I did on it, but in real life it wouldn't work this way.
Mm-hmm.
So I like to cut things and to put stuff in front of it and just work with a scene that is somehow set up realistically.
Mm-hmm.
So even when I'm building a room, I often want to get further away with the camera, and then I just hit the wall and I'm like, okay, I can't do this. Instead of just using the wall and selecting the wall and just putting it way back there, I'm just like, okay, it's not possible. This room can't be like 80 meters long, so it doesn't work. So I'm somehow appreciating those
limitations.
Those limitations, yeah.
That's great, man. And do you use do you use generally the same focal point, like whenever you're do you have any favorite, like when you're building these scenes? I'm guessing you're placing a camera. Do you go with a 50mm? What do you generally do?
So this totally depends on the scene.
Okay.
So coming from photography somehow, and I always used the 50mm because somehow I really liked it. This is my main lens in 3D as well.
Okay.
Because I'm somehow used to this way of seeing stuff.
And 50mm is closer to the human eye, right?
Right, yeah.
Okay.
So 50mm always is like this. Yeah, use this because this is what you see. Somehow, yeah. But I really enjoy this focal length. Yeah.
My favorite is, for some reason, whenever I travel or I shoot, the 50mm is what I generally do portraits with. But anytime, I also love doing portraits with a 24.
That can be pretty cool as well, yeah.
Because it enables you to have, let's say if you were in your studio and I was doing a portrait photography, I love having the story of the individual, but also the space within the space in which the individual is working or living. It's a way for me to enhance the story behind the whatever subject I'm shooting.
Yeah, that's true. Sure. So you're using this focal length because of a reason and not just because you have it with you.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
See, that's what I mean. You're using this stuff to tell the story the way you want to.
Exactly. Do you have people are asking what equipment when it comes to photography? This is going to turn into a photo stream.
All right.
What do you go with, like whenever you're going out shooting? What equipment do you use?
So these days I'm using my iPhone.
Okay, there you go. Very fancy.
Because what I found is, okay, for sure, when I did something professional, sure, I got my DSLR, and I still got it. It's a 5D, and it's still a great camera. It's like, what is it, almost 10 years old, but it's still a great camera, and I really don't need an upgrade, so I still use this. But mainly I use my iPhone these days because I found that I was somehow forced to take pictures when I took my DSLR with me, because I went out in the city and I was like, okay, I'm taking my camera with me, so I have to find something interesting.
Okay.
So I somehow always had the feeling, okay, I have to take a picture and I have to find something interesting because I brought my camera. So this somehow didn't work out for me. And oftentimes I just, oh man, this is so cool. I wish I had my camera with me. And nowadays with cell phones getting so much better in quality, I don't really miss my camera. So I'm just like, okay, this light is beautiful. I'm taking a picture and I'm done.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
awesome. And you've been doing. Is that something that's relatively new to your process, or has it been there from the get-go?
It has somehow been there from the get-go, but I guess in the last few months, I started really digging into it.
Okay.
Like taking a lot of pictures. Somehow Instagram introduced this story feature.
Yeah.
And this is a lot of fun for me because it's a possibility for me to share my pictures without floating my stream with photography images.
Okay.
So yeah, I had a lot of fun taking pictures.
And how much time does it, like, do you, like, if you were to bulk it, how much time does it take you? How much time do you dedicate to that, like, per week, if you were just to give an idea, you know?
To photography?
Yeah, to like gathering those and going out, looking at things, you know, building your reference library and all of that.
I guess it's like every day somehow, because I guess there's not one day where I don't take a picture of something that is interesting to me. Because yesterday, for example, I was watching TV and I somehow looked at the light strip on the floor. I was like, okay, this reflection is somehow really great, so I have to take a picture of it. So just to remind me later. So yeah, okay, I will somewhere do a picture where I can put this way of reflecting.
That's great.
Somewhere in the corner.
That's great.
So I always have to take pictures.
it's really amazing that, you know, you I feel like you've gotten this like native curiosity, and you know, a lot of people often are looking for motivation to get work done, but you just have like this crazy curiosity when it comes to light, when it comes to reflection and the way you perceive the world, and because I mean, we have eyes and that's all we do 24/7, except when we sleep. It almost feels like anything you see is something that almost looks magical and amazing, and that definitely makes it easier for you to then sit down and be like, okay, I saw this amazing thing, and I'd love to recreate it in Cinema 4D and share it with the world.
Yeah, right.
This is it helps. Yeah, go ahead.
So I even got, so the pictures are not of great quality, but I got even a folder on my hard drive with all those pictures, for example.
Yeah, show us some of them. Let's go through it.
It's not great quality, but when I see something like this, when I'm getting out of my flat and looking at the elevator and the light coming from the window outside, so I have to take a picture of it because it's somehow really magical to me, as you said. And somehow this is stuff I really enjoy. Just taking pictures because I love the way the light works, and especially sunlight, something I really enjoy. And it's not the greatest pictures of all time, but it's, for me, it's somehow a reference and something I can remember when doing 3D stuff. Because when I'm thinking about an image and I'm thinking about, okay, what mood could it be? Then I'm looking at a few of those pictures, for example, and I'm like, yeah, this mood could be really great when the light hits there or there. And as you can see, I'm really taking pictures of everything.
It's pretty awesome. I'm noticing that you really like a lot of these pictures, at least that I'm looking at. There's only a portion of the image that is revealed by light, but everything else
Yeah,
is
right.
almost like under a blanket of shadow and hidden a little bit.
Yeah. So this, for example, now that you mention it, is the reason I created this image. Because I was going through the city all the time and always taking pictures like, or in my flat even, it's always pictures like this, where I could see the light and having a pattern of the windows outside and all this stuff. So somehow I wanted to recreate an image that has the same mood somehow for me, where everything else is in shadow and just the thing that is important somehow is getting lit by the sun.
That's awesome. I don't know if you've seen. I'm not a gamer, but I was watching some gameplay of the latest Alien video game, Alien Covenant, I believe.
Okay,
It's
never heard of it.
you should if you have a chance, go and have a look. It's really, really well done in the sense that it's the alien story. Like, he's on the ship, you're playing Ripley, but just how they're playing with shadow and how they're just using light to create anxiety and terror is really impressive. If you guys get a chance, just hop on YouTube at some point and just have a look at how they went about doing the look development for Alien Covenant. It's beautiful. Everything is well done, well staged. The textures are beautiful. It's really like we're getting to that stage where video games, honestly, I'll be honest, and I'll say this live. Like, sometimes instead of watching a movie, I'll go on YouTube and watch like when they stitch together the cinematics of a video game.
Yeah.
I'll sit down and watch, like a full game like that. And it's the best story. It's such solid storytelling, and it's mind-blowing how amazing video games are today. It's really impressive.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. It's sometimes like watching a movie.
Yeah, Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. I remember seeing Heavy Rain, for example, for the first time.
Okay.
I was pretty flashed because it was just like a movie and you're just playing a movie somehow. And it was really great because, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's Alien Isolation. Quokka just corrected me.
Okay, Alien Isolation. Okay, I'll have to look it up.
Ash tried playing it. He couldn't finish it. He was too scared.
That's great.
But it's a
great
game.
You can see it.
Yeah, it's definitely.
In this moment, you can see that this game is really well done. If people get scared of it.
Yeah. People, I know someone in the chat wanted to talk a little bit about how do you, once you're finished with your scene, how do you go about finalizing it and doing the last touches in Photoshop? I don't know if there's sure. anything you could open and show us.
Yeah, sure, I can do that. So, don't know which image. I can use just the telephone thing here. So, is it this?
Guys, if you have any other question, feel free to post them. We're about an hour 20 into the stream right now.
Okay.
I don't know how much longer you want to stay, Mariusz. I don't know if you have anything going on after.
It's pretty late here, so yeah.
Okay, so we'll try to wrap it up in about 10 minutes.
Okay, so I can just deactivate like everything here.
Okay.
And so this is the basic render. I try to get as close as possible to what I want to achieve.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's even, so this is the final render.
Okay.
So I'm pretty used to grading my images, again from photography, because I always needed to use Lightroom and Photoshop to edit my raw files. So I'm used to edit my images,
Okay.
and I know what I can do in post. So I render pretty flat, so I can grade the whole image the way I want to.
Okay.
So you can see it's pretty boring
Gotcha.
somehow, because in Octane you have this option in the camera tag to apply a LUT,
Okay.
and this somehow grades your image. And as I don't really like those LUTs in Octane, and I'm not a big fan of letting the engine decide what colors I want in my image. I'm always setting it to linear, so I have pretty neutral image and set to neutral response, and usually pick my white point, so that I have a lot of freedom in the end when
Okay.
grading this image.
Okay.
So I put this image into Camera Raw in Photoshop,
Mm-hmm.
and graded it there, pretty basic.
Okay.
So that's what I usually do with all my images. So as you can see, it's now a lot more contrasty, and
And
then I added
warmer,
a second, and then I added a second layer and just brightened up this part here, and some retouching, because it's a still, so I can retouch some stuff,
Mm-hmm.
like 1 or 2 hot pixels, for example. Yeah, here you can see some hot pixels, and even I don't even know if they are visible in the stream, but I get rid of those.
The little fireflies.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
good.
fireflies.
Okay.
And in Octane, there's this option to what is it called? Hot pixel removal.
Okay.
But I don't really like it because it blurs the image somehow. So I don't really want to use it.
Okay.
So if it's just a few of those hot pixels, I remove them in Photoshop.
Okay.
And from there, I start grading it after this basic color correction, and apply curves and levels, and somehow get to the point where I'm happy with this image and what I wanted to achieve in the end.
That looks awesome, man.
Thanks.
It's it's great. It's great. I think that you showed a lot of different tips and just little things that can really make a big difference. Like in terms of like time spent working and things like that. Like just the idea of not trying to add another hour to your rendering to get rid of the fireflies, and just tackle that in Photoshop just by selecting them and taking them out. It's a huge time saver.
Yeah, sure. Because I'm just running a single graphics card.
Okay,
I don't really want to.
What are you working on?
I'm currently working on a single 980 Ti hybrid,
Okay.
and it's enough for me at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
But I got a 1080 now, so I'm somehow equipped for the future.
Okay. Okay.
But as I'm only rendering stills and not that big, it's alright for me. And I never encountered an image where I had to render more than a night or like 2 days. So it's usually pretty alright for me. But when I can cut down even this time, I guess it's better.
Gotcha.
So I have to upgrade when I get the time.
Yeah. I guys, if you guys have any questions, it's now or never. I'll just ask you this last question, Mariusz. Like, if anyone who just watched the stream is super interested, to get started in this, become a 3D generalist, and like, what's your advice? Like, what would you tell someone You know, if I came, I was like, Marius, damn man, I want to do this thing. How do you do it? I want to, you know, what would you tell me? Like, what's your tip, advice?
I would say just start, to be honest, because 3D was always this big thing for me. I was like, I can never do this.
Mm-hmm.
And because of starting those everydays, and I guess everydays is always a great way to learn anything.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to learn how to draw every day. Everyone does that, and someone who wants to be good at sports will train every day. So I guess using this method is a really great method to get into something, because I remember when I wanted to start cinema and started with those everydays. The first day I had to use like 4 hours, and I didn't even find anything I was looking for, and the image turned out so bad, and I rendered at like 400 pixels and all this stuff. And the second day I was searching for the same buttons again because I somehow forgot where they were.
Yeah.
And it goes on and on and on. But if you do it every day, you start to remember where something is and how something works, because when you don't do it every day, you'll always start from square one.
Okay.
Because you always will have forgotten how it works. And I guess when you get into it with the time and you are somehow comfortable in the software,
mm-hmm.
what helped me, for example, was to replicate stuff, just to sharpen some skills.
Okay.
Or to recreate some lighting, or to recreate something basic like a bottle.
Mm-hmm.
But just recreating stuff helped me a lot. But it really depends on where you want to go. Because if you want to do some UI stuff, sure, get into modeling the stuff. But I don't know what you should learn when doing UI in cinema, for example, because I can just speak for the stuff I do. And for me, this was the best path, I guess, by just recreating stuff. And I guess this was the best way for me. And I would always say just start and don't be afraid of putting out really bad stuff in the beginning, because it will look bad in the beginning for sure.
Cool. There's just 2 quick questions. What is 3D douchebags, and do you do any animation? And we'll wrap it up after those 2 questions. So what is 3D douchebags?
3 douchebags is a group. Okay. We're on Slack. It's a few friends of mine and some other 3D artists, and we just hang out there and talk to each other. Okay. And
so just a bunch of douchebags hanging.
Yeah, right. Okay. And this is something I would say to everyone is to find people that are interested in the same stuff, because I guess Learn Squared is the perfect example for this. You are always better when you are learning together or from someone who is way better than you.
Gotcha.
And this helps a lot because you're all on the same journey in a way. And so it doesn't feel that bad that you are not the greatest 3D modeler in the world.
Yeah, that's so true, man. Do you do any animation? That's the last.
I do animation, but not that much, because some of hardware limitations on one hand, and on the other hand, I'm not a big fan of animations because I never had those ideas where I would say, this is something where I need animation for. I was always one of those guys that really liked stills. Yeah. And even when I did photography, people asked me to do videos and I really didn't enjoy it.
Okay.
I'm just a big fan of stills and telling a story in a single image. So my animations are usually pretty silly when I do them. It's just animating something I modeled. So nothing more at this time. But maybe I'll get into this somewhere down the line.
Man, this has been amazing. I think people are super stoked. everyone, Ryan rendered, everyone showed up, showed you some love, said how amazing the work is looking. So
Oh, thanks.
yeah, it's thank you so much, man, for taking the time. I know it's late in Germany, but this was really really useful and helpful for a lot of us.
It was really fun for me as well. So yeah,
Cool, man,
thanks.
cool. So yeah, guys, we're going to wrap this up. Sorry for the technical difficulties at the beginning of the stream. We're trying to make these go as smoothly as possible. Next week, I'm working on getting another team on, and I'll do my best to have these, every Sundays. So just to learn more, hang out together, and just get closer to that goal we're trying to reach. If you guys have anyone in mind that you'd like to have on, if there's anything you feel could make these streams stronger, more interesting, just drop me a line. You can find me on Slack. And yeah, we'll wrap this one here. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for asking questions, and we'll catch you very, very soon. Take care,
And
guys.
thanks a lot, Momo, for setting this up and reaching out. It was a really pleasure for me. And yeah, you're doing great work there. And I guess, yeah, it's a really good thing that you're doing there, and it will get better over time. And I'm for sure will be watching those streams you are setting up then.
Thanks, man. Thanks. Yeah,
Thank
this
you.
is going to be great for everyone. All right, guys, have a good one, and
Bye.
catch you next Sunday.